had read about. This company creating the antidote for water deer poison. What she didn't know, however, was that her own father was the co-owner of this new company. The deputy head, acting on behalf of his powerful superiors, wanted her to go back to her father and get her hands on the antidote's formula. In exchange for doing so, she was promised a generous reward. Xiaong was annoyed that she was being asked to betray the orphanage director, but just as she was about to speak up, her phone started to ring. Seeing that it was her father, she asked for a quick moment to talk to him. Hong Bio started to talk with his daughter. The deputy head was eagerly waiting for her to end the call. In the end, the lady bid her father farewell with a smile. With that said, he asked for her final decision. Xiaong had decided to go back to her hometown. At first, this seemed like pleasant news for the balding man. Then, all of a sudden, she threw her badge at him. The youngest manager in the company decided to quit her job. She had grown sick of seeing someone as short as the deputy head trying to step on other people. With that done, she made her exit, flipping off her old boss who was screaming at her in anger. Later that night, inside the building owned by our protagonist, the orphans were working hard. Taeju praised them for their hard work. He then asked them to go back to the orphanage and let him take care of the rest. Chun-Hun was left worried and tried to argue that his father had ordered them to escort the drug creator at all times. But Taeju demonstrated that he didn't need protection and urged the bodyguards to go back to the orphanage and protect it. Thus, Taeju began to think of how unlikely it was for someone to try and harm the only orphanage in the city out of fear of public backlash. Then again, there were many madmen among the sons of Adam, and the free city seemed to have a lot of them. For that reason, Taeju needed trustworthy allies like the orphans. After establishing the company and acquiring the necessary staff to process the ingredients of the antidote, Taeju would finally be free to create new drugs. At first, he simply wanted to save money for himself. Yet now things were different. Taeju had nothing against having a generous income. After all, if it weren't for that, he wouldn't be able to afford such a luxurious apartment. He felt weird stepping into his own home for the first time. The protagonist then hung up his coat. He, who thought that he would perish in Pei Shu, struggled to remain alive after an attempt was made on his life. After the soul-sharing experience that he had with his martial artist counterpart, he went to live in the free city as a porter before creating his first antidote. Yet, the biggest blessing at hand was the kind people he met. Taeju had gotten himself into many adventures in such a short time. In his eyes, the free city was simply the first step toward achieving his own independence. Later on that night, the beginner-rank villain syndicate boss, Ma Sang-shik, stepped onto our hero's property with his subordinate. He felt jealous of the protagonist as despite being a newcomer here, he already had his own building. The subordinate claimed that this was because the mosquito antidote became very popular before pointing out the upcoming release of the deer antidote. The villain boss ordered his man to stop stating the obvious. Ma Sang-shik felt quite annoyed as if it weren't for the orders of the CEO of Yuji Pharmacy, he would have kidnapped Taeju and stolen the formula. But in the end, he had no choice but to follow the orders of Jo Hun-suk. After a few minutes of lock-picking, the delinquents were finally able to enter the house. The boss urged his man to skip the chat with the target and inject him with a drug that would make his kidnapping very easy. With that, the door was quietly opened. With a syringe in hand, they approached quietly, and once close enough, the criminal decided to make his move. But just as the needle was about to make contact, the hand of the delinquent was suddenly stopped. Taeju, who had been awake the entire time, revealed that at first he wanted to allow the injection. The boss urged his man to stop fooling around and finish the job at once. Yet upon learning that the hand of his subordinate was stuck, the villain syndicate boss was left completely stunned. Taeju began making his move while claiming that he saw them coming from afar. And just like that, before the criminal could even realize it, his target as well as his syringe had disappeared. Taeju had never liked painful little needles. At that point, the criminals began to doubt that their target was a mana reject. With a smug grin, the hero asked the villains if the drug would be as effective if drunk. This insolence and boldness greatly angered the head of the villain syndicate. Only then did something unexpected happen. Their target had willingly drunk the drug. Taeju relished the effects of this medicine and decided to ask his opponents for more. It had long been known that there was an evil syndicate trafficking drugs in the Free City, and it was obvious that they were being backed by someone from the committee. The product of their trafficking, which was also a poison, was now in the grasp of our protagonist. It was the first time that he had encountered such a poison. Seeing how he was now at the 4th star, the hero could easily handle it as he started to think of how his master counterpart tried all sorts of drugs back in his day. For that reason, Taeju decided to become a junkie just like him. For the sake of increasing his poison essence, he sucked the drugs out of the opponent's body. After seeing this, the boss of the villain syndicate was left horrified. Taeju demanded to know who was behind all of this. Yet the aggressor refused to answer, fearing for his life. Thus, the hero did what needed to be done, making screams echo through the night. As the next day finally arrived, the vigilante captain was thinking while looking outside the window. Kim Taeju, the creator of the miracle drug, had reported a crime. His subordinate confirmed that he had caught gangsters in his house trying to kidnap him, and after uncovering the mastermind, their services were needed. The master immediately realized that the CEO of UG Pharmacy was behind all of this and began to blame him for his failure. The quickest way to resolve this problem would have been to simply take him in. Yet the CEO would obviously be too much trouble. He realized that he had a difficult case at hand and that his group would have a hard time as it was tasked with the investigation. For that reason, the captain began to speculate that there was only one option available. Meanwhile, at our hero's residence, as the two owners stood in front of their prisoners, the villain boss found himself in some kind of brain-dead state. At that moment, someone arrived. The vigilantes finally arrived at the scene. Hong Pyo welcomed the master and his crew with open arms. Yet to his utmost shock, he was immediately ignored. The master stood above the gangster. And so, as one of the vigilantes tried to keep the old owner away, his captain drew out his sword. The man then resorted to his authority and decided to execute the villain boss here and now. Only then was something thrown at him. The man quickly parried the incoming flying dagger. Taeju demanded to know why the captain was trying to kill the witness. He then showed a video of the villain boss confessing that the CEO of UG Pharmacy was the one behind the kidnapping and that he wanted to hook the protagonist on drugs. Yet, from the looks of it, he quickly deduced that the captain must be aware of all of this. When asked about his name, the arrogant one claimed to be Taeju. The captain immediately recognized him as the drug developer. He then decided to calm himself down. The Master Awakener then decided to take a better look at the one in front of him, and to his shock, he seemed rather familiar. Only then did he realize he was in front of the same porter from back then. Taeju didn't respond at first. When asked if he was truly behind the mosquito antidote, our hero confirmed it. The swordsman then claimed that it wasn't that impressive. Shortly after, he cracked a smug smile. The captain then firmly affirmed that he was the law in the Free City. He decided to give the protagonist one last chance to end things quickly by executing the criminals at once. Even so, Taeju refused. Seeing this, the master dared the mana reject to try and stop the execution. Taeju barely had any time to react. He immediately pulled out his knives and threw them at the captain. The man felt alerted by the incoming projectiles. Thus, he unleashed a tempest of slashes to defend himself. It was now obvious to him that the drug creator had captured the criminals by himself. He couldn't help but commend his skill seeing how he was able to scratch him. Thus, seeing how he had prevented the execution twice, the standing committee member sentenced Taeju to death. Even so, the protagonist couldn't care less. Yet, as our hero kept running his mouth, he noticed something intriguing. He jumped into the air in order to evade the incoming blade and threw his knives at his opponent. Taeju was preparing a powerful attack. His opponent was doing the same as well. Only then was the fight interrupted by the arrival of a helicopter. Suddenly, Men in jumpsuits jumped out of it. The lieutenant general, who made a spectacular entrance, was here to stop the troublesome vigilante captain. Upon jumping out of the helicopter and landing on the ground, the commander stopped the ongoing battle. With the arrival of the military, everyone stood on their guard. The lieutenant general greeted his old acquaintance. Yun Hak demanded to know what the military was doing in the Free City. The commander pointed out that he didn't need permission to pay Geyer a visit. The captain accused the military of meddling in the affairs of his city. The powerful awakener clarified that he wasn't there as a lieutenant general. Oh Jin-hyuk stated that he was there as a civilian. For that reason, he proposed to the other master that they not meddle in each other's affairs. It was safe to say that this greatly angered him. With that being said, the civilian rushed to check on his friend, who affirmed that he wasn't hurt. Even so, some urged him to seek justice. The master-rank Major General, Gu Junyoung, claimed that he would take down anyone who mistreated the one who gave them the antidote. Another master rank, known as Park Pil-sung, offered to give him some of his people as bodyguards. The third major, known as Hong Juntae, proposed to get him some medicine. Seeing this, the vigilante captain assumed that Taeju was already acquainted with these powerful brutes from the military because his father was a brigadier general. Thus, he decided to swallow his pride and take his leave. Oh Jin-hyuk invited him to stay a little longer, but Master Lee affirmed that, unlike them, he was a busy man. However, the soldier stated that he didn't seem busy at all. When asked to elaborate, the lieutenant general called out the vigilante captain on his poor job, seeing how such delinquents were still running the streets of his city. When offered backup, he immediately refused it. And with that, the captain decided to take his prisoners and leave. Oh Jin-hyuk then declared that he would be keeping the delinquents. The committee member took this as military involvement. When confronted about it, the lieutenant general explained that he had to punish them, seeing how they had tried to hurt his friend. Young Hak tried to invoke the imperial decree, so his opponent decided to adopt a different approach. Oh Jin-hyuk reminded him that despite the two of them being masters, they were far from being equals. At that moment, the captain started to sweat. Oh Jin-hyuk firmly clarified that the emperor wouldn't care to punish him if he took his life right then and there. As the shivering vigilante explained that there would be consequences, the three other masters started to laugh at him and eagerly awaited the order to rough him up. At that moment, Young Hak realized that he was in a tough situation. Upon seeing his subordinates trembling, he realized that he had no choice. With that being said, he decided to quietly retreat. Ajin Hyung noted that the captain had been long pampered inside his own city. With that being said, the hero thanked his savior. The lieutenant general was ready to do anything to help an ally. As it turned out, they had rushed to the scene as soon as they were called by Hong Pyo. And just like that, the worst was evaded. Because of the lieutenant general's involvement, both the protagonist and his business partner came out unharmed. To top it all off, they even got to keep their witnesses. As soon as the delinquents were brought up, Ajin Hyung claimed that he would be taking them in order to take down their mastermind. But Taeju tried to clarify that this problem concerned him alone. But the soldier seemed to think otherwise, as the entire military would be in danger if the enemy tampered with the antidote production. He even clarified that the drug creator wasn't forced to deal with the vigilante captain any longer. This made Taeju think about how his fourth star poison seemed to still be too weak to affect a master. He didn't seem affected by it at all. And if it weren't for the involvement of the lieutenant general, victory wouldn't have seemed as certain as defeat. For that reason, Taeju wanted to acquire more power in order to never be helpless again. Meanwhile, the vigilante captain began to think of how he wanted the hero and the commander dead. Only then did he realize that he had been scratched by the heroes throwing knives. He began to speculate that they were poisonous. At that moment, Young Hak was struck with a sudden pain. The poison had started to spread. At that moment, he realized that he was in a tough situation. His subordinate quickly noticed that something was wrong. Thus, he was ordered to get him to a hospital immediately. With that being said, the vigilante stepped on the gas. And just like that, a master had been greatly weakened. Later on, while flying through the air, all the military personnel kept an eye on the prisoners. Fearing for his life, the boss of the villain syndicate promised to tell them everything. But the general affirmed that his testimony wasn't needed. With that being said, he turned to one of his men. The subordinate immediately grabbed the handle and opened the door of the chopper. At that moment, the criminals were filled with fear, as the man was ordered to throw them out. And just like that, the 4 criminals met a cold and crushing end. The task had been finished. Juntae was then ordered to make the CEO of Yoji Pharmacy meet the same fate. The commander even ordered some troops to be deployed to protect the hero's company. Ajin Hyung finally had the opportunity to get closer to Kim Tae-ju. Meanwhile, at the train station, Se-young received a call from Chong-hoon. The lady told her brother that she had just arrived in the city. It then came as a shock to her to learn that their father's partner had supplied the orphanage with billions of won. And upon learning that he had even finalized his second antidote, Se-young was left completely stunned, as it turned out that Tae-ju wasn't a scammer after all. With that being said, she ended the call. Upon entering the taxi, the girl asked the driver to take her home. She was now certain that her return to the city wouldn't be in vain. Later on, at the old owner's orphanage, the children were as lively as ever. Hong Pyo was happy to see one of his little ones arrive. The girl affirmed that she had rushed back home as soon as her father called. Hong Pyo thanked her and asked her to come with him. Se-young asked if there was some kind of celebration and was curious about what was in the pot. So, the old man claimed it to be spore-poisoned water deer. Upon learning this, she was left particularly stunned. This meant that her brother was being truthful about the antidote, which her father confirmed. Hong Pyo then proposed to go meet up with his business partner, who was expecting her. To keep himself busy, the hero decided to give food to the orphans. With that, the old man decided to proceed with the introductions. Tae-ju greeted Se-young with a smile. However, this wasn't their first interaction. The lady apologized for being rude back then and explained that she was excited to work for their company. The protagonist then felt reassured, as she promised him to do her best in order to improve Tae-jo. Yet, she wasn't the only one to offer her services. As he was approached by someone, the hero turned in intrigue. That person was Major Do Min-soo, who was assigned to the security of this place along with 19 of his men. The hero was thankful for their kindness, but pointed out how he might not have the space to house 20 soldiers. But the major affirmed that they could take care of themselves. And just like that, Tae-ju found himself working with the military once again. As the major was invited to join the feast, he was secretly looking forward to the water deer meat. And so, he ordered his soldiers to set up everything and go eat. Kim Tae-ju didn't need to be a loner anymore, as he finally had his own people. Meanwhile, in the castle of the Free City, inside the Autonomous Committee meeting room, the past crimes of the CEO of Yoji Pharmacy were being brought up. When asked if he admitted to his crimes, the man had no choice but to plead guilty. On top of becoming broke, Jo Hun-suk was now an outcast. His enemy was alive, and the assassin he had hired was unreachable. Things had taken an unexpected turn for the worse. For that reason, the options of the criminal became limited. Jo Hun-suk had plans to disappear for a while until things calmed down. Yet, as he was on his way to safety, a red light appeared and a motorcycle came out from the rear. The man turned to see who was by his left ear, only to find metal breaking the glass near him. With that, the color red appeared. The seats were stained with blood. After carrying out his orders, the assassin decided to return to base. Meanwhile, in the hospital, the vigilante captain was clinging on for dear life. At that moment, his subordinate came in with the requested item. This was a top-grade elixir created by the Marini Company. The master demanded it immediately. Without wasting any time, he grabbed the sphere and consumed it. And just like that, his veins were purified of the poison. The master didn't expect anything less from the expensive stuff. But only then did something inside him suddenly shatter. And just like that, the one in agony started to curse Kim Tae-bro once again. As the company was growing, its owner realized they needed more drugs, which is why he went to the heart of the mountain to get the giant moon bear's gallbladder. Aside from drugs, he needed to consume new poisons in order to improve his martial arts. After consuming an unfathomable amount of deer poison, the one who had reached the 4th star not long ago was now near attaining the 5th. Only then did he notice something intriguing. Our hero had found the poison sap tree that creates a toxic ooze to keep pests away. That strong poisonous substance had a surprisingly sweet taste. Tae-UFO then encountered a blue fire-bellied toad that held poison in its guts. Seeing how it had the same properties as anesthesia, he decided to keep it for research. Soon after, he encountered a giant white wood centipede. The creature, which was as big as a serpent, carried a poison strong enough to terminate an orc with a single bite. Its powerful poison was actually found to be rather refreshing by the martial artist. At that moment, he noticed something in the distance. It was some kind of white symbol hiding in the bushes. Suddenly, the creature revealed itself. The giant moon bear had finally been located. The beast let out a fierce battle roar. Not expecting to encounter it so soon, he decided to test its power. The hero pulled out his flying daggers. He threw them at the creature all at once. The beast deflected them with great ease. Its speed was remarkable. The bear immediately charged at the human. Taeju quickly got behind it and launched a counterattack. At first, it seemed like he had scored a direct hit. But the giant moon bear only had to flex its back muscles in order to push the knives out. Taeju then decided to hit it with his blood seal poison palm. The beast remained unfazed and kept on attacking relentlessly. Its claws tore through wood like butter. The hero decided to initiate another skill in order to overpower it. And yet, all of his attacks were ineffective. This foe was tougher than predicted, meaning it would be challenging to defeat while only being at the 4th star. Thus, only one solution remained. Taeju needed to acquire more power immediately. He pulled out the blue fire-bellied toad and decided to consume it at once. The centipede followed shortly after. As the venom filled his veins, our hero now simply had to convert it into poison essence. The process was quickly completed. And just like that, the poisonous martial artist finally reached the 5th star. The difficulty of the challenge had now changed. Taeju wanted to use a new toy from the Poison Clan's arsenal, the blood butterflies. The metal insects quickly rushed at the bear. One could only use this hidden art after reaching the 5th star, seeing how it allowed the user to control the trajectory of their projectiles. Because of that, he easily hit the bear in the eye, as well as the left ear. With that, the fight came to an end. Just like that, Taeju was able to slay his target and reach a new level at the same time. With that done, he decided to claim his prize. The hero reached deep into the guts of the monster and finally acquired the organ that he desperately desired.